intellectual stew.
All right, that's enough of that. What's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland. Do me a favor, if you will. Will you please share this thread? Viola's already spoken. How are you doing, ma'am? Thank you for your continued support. I'm trying to get all my stuff together. For your continued support, you're always there, and I appreciate you for your encouraging words and everything that you do. So, but as you come in, say hello, say what's up, say how you doing, say happy. Hey, Patricia, say happy belated birthday to me. Y'all, if you want to send me a cash, no, I'm just joking. But how about y'all? How about my little sister, your Sarah, Patricia, wish me a happy 60th birthday today. 60. For real? I look that bad? I mean, not that bad. I look that old, but no, I'm not 60. I'm happily 52 years young. I feel old sometimes, but 52 years old. She called me 60, and I know my sister Kim Fox. You know Kim. Kim's a few years younger than you. I'm not gonna tell your age, but she's a few years younger than you. But Kim Fox, that's out of Pine Bluff. That's my little sister, biological sister. We got the same mom and everything, but I've been gone most of her life since I've been gone, going on right around 29 years, and I think she's a little over 40. So, but yeah, she wished me a 60th birthday. Are you not? I thought you were AKA. I'm sorry, my bad. My bad. I thought you were AKA. I don't know what. Thank you, Happy James. Hope you enjoyed your birthday, Happy James. I am happy. I appreciate you for that. But no, how are y'all doing? I wanted to go to church yesterday. I was dressed and everything. My son, you know, I knew he was going to propose to his fiance, girl. Oh, Viola. So it's her. Sorry, I'm sorry. I knew he was going to. I got it. I'm up now. I'm up. I knew he was going to propose to his girlfriend, so I went to his proposal at Canoe Restaurant yesterday at 10 o'clock, and I had every intention of leaving after the proposal. Not that I was in a hurry to leave. I was just going to go to church. You know, that's just what I do. I mean, on Sunday morning, I go to church, so I'm there all black on because it's first Sunday. And I'm gonna tell you something, you know, this parenting thing, you know, I tell people all the time that parenting is on the job training, right? And we, like most of us, I know y'all are perfect. I'm James. I mean, I'm your friend. I'll tell you the truth. But most of us probably get it wrong on the first child, right? You know, because we're experimenting. It's on the job training. But that baby, boy, that baby will get you right. She'll make you parent the right way, man. So it was funny yesterday. I was getting ready to leave after the pictures were over with and we saw the proposal. I was about to, what's up, Elder Lisa Smith? I was about to break. I was about to dip. I was about to go to church, right? And my little girl looked at me like she was my wife, boy. She scowled at me like, you better not leave. I'm like, huh? I ain't gonna lie, I kind of punked out a little bit when she did that. She looked at me like, you better not leave. I said, what? She said, don't you leave me here and don't leave him. I said, well, I told him I was leaving. She said, he'll say it's okay, but he really means otherwise. It's see, because those babies have that boldness, right? I don't know how many children. If you only got one, you might not experience it, right? But if you got, you know, 2, 3, you know, because the first one, like I said, is on the job training. You get it wrong a lot of times. Middle child, you know, it's kind of coasting. You know, the things you got wrong, you kind of correct. And sometimes by that third or fourth child, you kind of tired, anyways. You don't even feel like fighting anyway. So when they challenge you or you try, and I couldn't say a word because she was right. You know, she wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't disrespectful. But it put me in a state of retrospect, and it made me think about some decisions I might have made over the last 26 years that I thought was the right decision, that I thought it was the noble decision. I thought I was supposed to be here. I thought I was supposed to say that. And sometimes I did those things at the sacrifice and at the detriment of a relationship with them. It was so many times I could remember them being on the road while I'm at work. And I'm supposed to be, and I talk about that in the book. If you all haven't gotten, I might give it, depending on who's the most engaged in the night, I might give another copy. I owe Conjura Hilliard a copy. She won a copy on last week. But it put me in retrospect. It made me wonder, were there times that I should have showed up, but I didn't because I thought I was doing something that was noble. And when I didn't show up, how did it make my children feel? And I'm not the only one, because all of us, if we be honest, if you're honest, if you would really do honest assessments, right? If you really look at the man or the woman in the mirror, I got you, Charlotte. Um, if you really look at the man or the woman, I mean, you do an honest assessment, because all of us, I know some of y'all don't think your stuff don't stink, or we're on our way to heaven and we're enjoying the trip. We're so perfect and we don't make mistakes. But I'm gonna be the first one to stand up and say, yeah, I made some mistakes along the way, but to see the fruit of my labor yesterday, to see how this year he's the strides he's made since college. He's gotten a master's degree. He's doing real estate now. He's doing well at real estate. He and his fiance are doing well. They purchased their first house already. They're on their way, and I can look at them and say, I did that. I can say I did that. But you know what? I did it in spite of me. And it wasn't just me, don't get me wrong, we participated in that, but it wasn't just me. And sometimes some things can function even when it looks like there's dysfunction, right? Because, those weren't always happy years. We didn't always have the most. Sometimes we didn't have, and sometimes we struggled, and sometimes we lost, and sometimes we missed it, and sometimes we dropped the ball, right? But yet still, in the midst of dysfunction, we still found function, because, like I said, he's done that. My middle child, she's already gone on and graduated from University of Georgia and is doing an internship. My baby, she's working and leading cheerleading, all these things, right? And they did those things in spite of, right? Because it wasn't just because I was so great and so grand, because sometimes I missed it. And my daughter challenging me yesterday, and not challenging me in a negative way, because I 100% feel what she did, and I respect what she did, and I love her for what she did. But she said, you better not leave. He won't tell you, but I'm going to tell you. If you leave, he's going to feel some type of way. Don't leave. Because children talk, and they have feelings. And we have created a culture as we, because the last few weeks, you all have heard me talk about attachment styles. And we talk about how we relate in our adult life based on how our caregivers dealt with us as children, how those that were supposed to be our village, how, did they give us a nurturing environment, or did they give us a confusing environment where they drink, where they're drunks, or where they're abusive, did they contribute to ACEs, all these different things. We try to factor those things, because those are the things, those are the cultivation. That's the cultivation. That's the soil, if you will, that the seed that we have become has grown in, because of the environment. We're all products of our environment. Any way we look at it, we're the product. We are products of what we have been exposed to and what we have embraced. That's just like the old saying: if you lay down with dogs, what ends up happening? You end up getting up with fleas, right? That's how that usually works out. If you lay down with dogs, you usually get. So if you get into a certain environment, right, and you're always around that type of environment, if you have to be protective of yourself because you're worried about somebody coming in the room and slipping under the covers with you, right, because they did it last night or they did it last year when you came to visit for the summer, and that was supposed to be a safe environment, Or when somebody, 1 minute they're showing you love and they're talking about how much they love you and they're telling you how beautiful you are and that you're their child, and they're supposed to be protecting you. But the next moment you talk to them and then they cussing you out and calling you everything but a child of God. That creates a disorganized environment, because a person doesn't know what's going to happen. And when they don't know what's going to happen, what it does is it puts them on the defensive. It puts them in a state whereas they have to be careful or be in a state where they're distrusting, if you will. So when we start talking about all of these ACEs, if you want to know what ACEs, Charlotte, those are adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences. Because that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about growing up in a world and you're feeling misunderstood, right? Last week we had the privilege of having Lalita May on the show. And I had asked a simple question prior to asking what if I don't read your comments, y'all talk to each other. Don't talk to me, because I'll try to read them, but I want to keep flowing with what I'm doing. So I prefer you all talk to each other, because I get distracted sometimes when I have to read the comments and and teach what I'm trying to teach at the same time. So please don't think that I'm shirking your responsibility. Somebody might want to take over one day and read these comments for me, but I can't do it. All right. So, like I said, but please comment, please talk to each other, please share your testimonies, because that's what I want to see. So here it is. Growing up in a world where you're feeling misunderstood. Young lady last week, she came on and she talked about her childhood trauma. And this was the post that she made last week. Hold on, let me find it. I'm right near it. I was just on it, but I hit the wrong button. Okay, here it is. There it is. All right, Miss May. She said last week, her childhood trauma was ADHD. As a girl back then, ADHD was a white boy condition, and the crippling anxiety and depression that came with it, I was hyperlexic, meaning I was reading fluently at 2 years old before I even understood what the words meant. I was teaching my classmates to read by 1st grade. By 5th grade, I was reading on a 10th grade level. Thing is, I would make bad grades throughout school because I would miss homework assignments. Though I would ace the test, most of my whoopings came from those issues. But how do you explain to a teacher or a parent that your brain is fighting you? There was no explanation that would be taken as an excuse. So that was shocking for me. It was eye-opening for me. It was because I could relate to her on so many levels. And then not only but I started to get text messages, and I started to get emails, and I started to get phone calls, inboxes about people who had gone through the same thing. I can remember in the 5th grade that they put us in a 6th grade classroom because we were farther along advanced than the other 5th graders in our school. So I was in the same 6th grade classroom for 2 years. 5th grade, same 6th grade. Didn't flunk 6th grade, no. In fact, I was the youngest in my class. But I had a unique ability to be able to understand and figure out things. I could read, I could study. I mean, I could cram, didn't flunk tests. You know, even in college, I would write 10-page papers on the last day. I would sit down and try to write those papers. I would try to do the research up front. I would sit down and try to do the rewrite and, do the rough draft. I've never done a rough draft and a rewrite. Never done that. I know that's how they teach you to do it, but I never did. But then it came to a certain point where I maxed out and I didn't know how to study. And when I didn't know how to study, that trauma came back because of what I was missing growing up, because I could relate to her on so many levels. I'll get into that as we get on a little bit later. But so many can relate to that. So many things, because what we consider ACEs, what we consider adverse child experiences like mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, having a parent that's an alcoholic, all these different factors contribute to what we call adverse childhood experiences, and they pour into that child, right? And they help produce who that child becomes. I can remember, and like I said a minute ago, if you all missed it, parenting is on the job training. We model our parenting style a lot of times off of what our parents did to us or what our parents didn't do to us. I mean, some things we didn't like they did. Like, for instance, my mom might have made us eat all of our food. Well, hell, I didn't like onions in my eggs. So I would sit there and hate eating. So I didn't make my children eat all their food. I made sure they got enough, so the things that you didn't like, you might have changed, or the things that you liked, you might have kept, because you created your own modeling style, your own parenting style, your own model of a parenting style as you went forth. Right. And so you tried your best to create this environment for your children. I can remember, for instance, like I said, and this is not to slight my parents because they did the best they could. And I think I turned out okay. But I can remember, for instance, if I made a bad grade, Charlotte, if I made a bad grade, Lisa, my mom at that time would make me go stay in my room for 9 weeks until the grade came up. For 9 weeks, I would have to stay in the room and honestly, when I look at that in reverse, man, that was solitary confinement. You can't tell me that's a good place to put a child to leave them alone with their thoughts for 9 weeks. I talked to my therapist about it. We talk about it, and that, and some of the things I'm going to share with you all, because I'm transparent. I'll share my business. I just need to learn. I'm not going to share other people's business. And we talk about, that room, and how, many times, few times I had to be punished or banished to that room for those 9 weeks. And it wasn't like I was making F's. I didn't make F's. I made a C or something, or along those lines. But I would have to go in that room for 9 weeks, be left alone with my thoughts. And my therapist said that in so many ways, I'm still in that room. Or sometimes in so many instances, it's not that I'm in the room. Sometimes I retreat to the room because I made it a haven, or I made it a safe place, or I made it watch this, I made it a place to go even when I punish myself. I need y'all to talk back to me tonight. I made it a place to go even when mama or parents wasn't punishing me. I made it a place to go where I would punish myself when I felt like I wasn't measuring up, when I felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, when I felt like I missed the mark, when I felt like I fell short. Sometimes it wasn't that my parent had to put me in punishment or on punishment. I would punish myself. And the room, I discovered over the years, has become much more than a physical room. But in contrast, the room has become a metaphor. In fact, when I went through what I went through, and I had to write a whole book about it, my bedroom actually became my couch. And that's why I wrote a whole book on it called Stuck on the Couch. Yeah, because you always look for a safe place. What's his name? Pigpen on Charlie Brown had his blanket. It just that was his safe place. You know what I'm saying? If you got a love language and you got somebody you can trust, and your love language is touch, as long as they're just right beside you, you can put in arm's reach. You can touch them. Your Wonder Twins activate. Because whatever it is, you're looking for that safe place, right? And for me, for a season, it was the couch. And here it is, because Viola, growing up in a world where you felt misunderstood, right? Because like I told you, we were only 6 or 7 in the 6th grade classroom, right? I always had a unique ability to understand. I can remember having spiritual conversations with my uncle vividly at 3 and 4 and 5 years old. I was baptized at the age of 5. I had a unique ability to understand. And so when those instances come, how as an environment, or how as a village, do we cultivate the ground to make the child, make the atmosphere more conducive so that we can get the most out of the child? Because truth be told, some of us aren't equipped to raise exceptional children. I'm be honest, just be honest. I ain't gonna lie, I wish I had been in a better position financially to really help my son in his baseball career. Because there were some things that he just needed, that I couldn't do, or I wasn't able to do, because of just how just wasn't able to do, unfortunately, during that time. And things have changed, thank God, since then. He got what he needed, thank God. That's why I said even through dysfunction, we could find function. So many of us have, and y'all can be honest, y'all, if you can believe me if you want to, so many of have had such a steady diet. So many of us have had such a steady diet of dysfunction, that dysfunction has become our norm. And so functional don't even look right, because we've gotten so comfortable in dysfunction. Does that make sense? That's why when help shows up, you're not ready to take help, because help, sometimes we're too busy trying to tell help how to be help. And how do you tell help how to be help when you're the one who needs the help? Sometimes it's better when you're on the outside, when somebody's on the outside looking in. I often use the analogy of how so many times in my life that I missed it, right? Because I just didn't take the time to look at the man in the mirror. I didn't take the time. I thought I had it down. I knew my natural wave pattern. I could brush my hair across here, right? I could brush my teeth while I'm getting my shirt out the hanger. I can wash my face while I'm, right before I tie my tie. Although I knew those things, so a mirror wasn't very necessary I didn't think it was. So when people told me what they saw, sometimes I didn't see it. And I don't know if it was because I had insulated myself over the years. I don't know if because of not feeling like I fit in, I had to create this alter ego or insulate or whatever. Because I ain't gonna lie, I use this analogy all the time, Stacey Viola. I use this analogy. I say that I say that my stress after my divorce and all that, you know, when I was getting myself together, I tell people my stress level went down the more my middle finger went up. Because there was just a part of me I had to harden myself. I had to become, I had to, you know, had to insulate myself so that I could become strong again, right? See, the cocoon, it covers the external because it's trying to protect something that's on the inside. And sometimes we'll harden our shell, even inadvertently, because we're trying to protect something, whether it be an ego, oh God, whether it be our feelings, whether we're trying to keep from being offended, all those types of things, right? Especially when you feel like you have been misunderstood. And so I wanted to talk tonight for a few minutes. I promise you I ain't gonna hold you all long tonight. But I wanted to talk to you about in the Bible. If you look at this story in the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 1, 1 Samuel chapter 1, you're introduced to the story of Samuel, right? And Samuel had two parents. Elkanah was his daddy, and Hannah was his mama. Now, Elkanah in this culture could have more than one wife. He had two. He had Hannah and he had Peninnah. But those that know the story know what Hannah was barren. That meant that Hannah was unable to produce children. And that was the glory of a woman. Every woman wanted to be able to produce a child for her husband, and not only a child, but she wanted to be able to produce a male child because she wanted to be able to carry his bloodline, right? She wanted that bloodline to keep on going, because if it was no male child, then the seed would stop. Now I could put a hermeneutic right there, because y'all know y'all doing test tube babies, and now y'all doing relationships that don't even make babies. Okay, but anyway, so she wanted to be able to produce or keep his bloodline going, but she was barren. She could not produce. And can you imagine what that must have done to her, especially since we're talking about mental health now? Can you imagine how that made her feel? That had to make her feel inadequate. That had to make her feel like she was unworthy, or that she was worthless, because she was unable to produce children. And what made it worse is that her adversary, the other woman in the house, his other wife, right? She would make fun of her, talking about how her womb was barren and that she was unable to bear children. But one day she was in the temple and she was praying, and the Bible says she was praying and she was crying, and she was praying and she was crying. And as she cried, her lips would move and it looked like she was speaking, but she wasn't saying anything, right? So verse 14 of chapter 1, Eli said unto her, he said, "How long, woman, are you going to be drunk? Put away your wine." And Hannah said, "No, I ain't drunk. I'm a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I've drunk no wine nor strong drink, but have poured my soul before the Lord." Now, notice what she said. She said she poured her soul before the Lord. She didn't pour it before Eli. She didn't pour it before her husband. She didn't pour it before Peninnah. She didn't pour it before me. She didn't put it on Facebook. She didn't put it on Instagram. She didn't put it on TikTok. She went before the Lord. Too many times in life, I think we take our problems to the wrong people. We take our problems to people that can't change them. We take the problems to people who won't do anything but pervert whatever it is that we gave them. That's why it said, "Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pains we bear," all because we won't carry everything to him, but we try to carry them to other folks. So Hannah said she poured her soul out before the Lord, and then she said, "Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto." Here she was depressed. Here she was dealing with anxiety. But even in the midst of that, she was cognizant enough to go to the right person with the right message, because she went to the Lord and she went to him with prayer. And I like how Eli handled it, because Eli's like a lot of us. Because how many people, Lori, how many people, Viola, how many people, Lisa, have you misdiagnosed? Because see, what we fail to realize oftentimes is that that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And we don't realize that we could, just like we speak life into someone, by the same token, we can speak death. Now, he saw her lips moving, saw her crying, but no words were coming out, and he automatically assumed the worst. Why she got to be drunk? Because when you see somebody on the street, why they got to be crazy? And if they are crazy, what drove them crazy? Where did the psychotic break? Where did the psychotic break? Because you and I are this close to a mental breakdown. Let the wrong information find you out. Bernadette talked a couple of weeks ago about a man that was in the military in her neighborhood that had found his wife cheating. And now he's walking down the street talking to himself. He's lost his mind. All of us are just a little information away from a psychotic break. And then somebody will be diagnosed in your situation, right? And so here Eli is a priest. Somebody's supposed to be connected to God. And the first thing he assumes when he sees this woman is that she must be drunk. You got to be careful diagnosing conditions that you're not equipped to diagnose. Man, I'm going to try to tell you, Viola, I promise you, folk will lie on you, will speak all manner of evil against you falsely and all that kind of stuff. I preached a sermon one time, and I called it When My Anointing Attracts Attacks. Because there are times that your anointing just a mess around and will attract attack. You didn't do anything you just existed, you know. And why, if we're going to exist, why not exist cordially, right? I mean, because existence does not deserve the name of life. It's happiness that deserves the name of life, right? And all I want to do is I want to be I just want to be happy, right? I just want to live cordially. I don't want to fight. I don't want to get along with me. I don't want to argue with anybody. I want to be like Rodney King. Can we all get along? But in this society, many times we assume the worst before we assume the best. So how many children with that negative tongue of yours, with that negative perception, that tongue that is speaking death, how many children's lives or how many individuals' lives that you've spoken into their lives, and you could have spoken life that's one thing I did speaking to my children. I did speak life. Every semester I told them, I said, listen, now you're going to start this semester off. In every class, you got 100. So right now you have all A's. So any points you give back, that's on you. Now you can give up to 10 or 9, whatever it was, and you still got A's. But why would you do that? So, I told them no more than 2 B's in my house. And those were the rules. And I spoke those rules, and they never missed that. Oh, let me, somebody might want to call. Let me put up the phone. I forgot to put the phone up. But, let me turn the phone on. But yeah, so if you can create an environment for people to win when they're in your presence. I don't want people around me that's not winning. I go through seasons of my life where I choose not to answer the phone. Especially, y'all ever had somebody every time they call you, it's bad news? Yeah, you have to. I spoke and still speak life. Absolutely. Jennifer, y'all have anybody that whenever they call you, it's always, I got one homeboy. Every time he calls me, it's bad news. And then he wonder why I got attitude, why you call. I said, listen, bro, let me tell you what it's like, what you're doing. It's like you're taking a pile of manure, a whole truckload of manure, and you're backing up to my freshly manicured lawn, and you're dumping it all on me, and you don't even spread it. You don't do, and that you can't do me like that. And so what I'll do is I'll change your name in my phone to DNA, and that means do not, I won't do it because I can't let you bring that into my spirit. Jennifer, I watch how you support your son when he sings and does all those things. We got to speak life into our children. And here Samuel was now. She prayed. She said, Lord, because she made a vow. She said, verse number 11, she vowed a vow, said, Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on my affliction, the affliction of thine handmaid, Remember me, not forget thine handmaid, but will give me a man child. That's a reproducing, not just, I want one that, because only men could serve in the temple. Don't call them chauvinistic. That was just the day. Okay. Shit, that was just the day. That was the culture. Men were the priests during that time. She wanted a male child. Somebody wanted to call and I missed the phone call. Call right back. You call right back. A male child. She wanted a male child. Call right back. I missed it. So that's what she wanted. If I see the call, I'll answer it. And so she prayed that prayer. I don't know if I don't have, I think I got the phone ready. She prayed that prayer because she wanted a male child. And she said, Lord, if you give him to me, I'll give him back to you. Right. So interestingly enough, during this time, Eli was an old man. Now, with him being so old, he had 2 sons, but his sons were a mess. Phinehas and Hophni were a mess. They were a stone cold mess. They would cheat people with the sacrifices. They would keep the good ones for themselves and not give those to God. I mean, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, they were horrible. They were taking the women and having sex in the temples. They were doing some stuff back then, right? Whoever was trying to call, let me know who it was, and I promise I'll try to answer in a minute. They were doing some stuff, right? I mean, they were just negative all over the place. So ironically, God always puts a ram in the bush. He always has something set up in case we mess up, right? So he decided to bless Hannah with her desire. So don't tell me that God is still not in the blessing business, because he will, and he'll even reverse conditions that were supposed to be non-productive. He'll turn around and make those same things productive. Areas in your life where you were once non-productive, God will reverse it and make you productive. Ask Elijah as he sat beside the brook of Kerith every day, because the Bible talks about how a ravenous bird by a raven showed up every day with meat in its beak, meat that it could have eaten, but it met Elijah and served him. God will reverse conditions so that you can succeed in areas where you were once non-successful. Not because she ended up having a child, and when she had a child, after she had weaned him, after he had gotten old enough, she took him to the temple. And you got to understand that he's a special child. He's not just a normal child, because his name is Samuel. What Samuel meant is asked of God. The reason she named him what she named him is because of the conditions under which he was conceived. She asked God, could she have a male child? And God gave her a male child. Isn't that just like a God? He gave her a male child, and she decided to do what she said she was going to do. She took him back to the temple and she gave him to Eli. Now understand, Eli is the priest at the temple, but Eli is up in age now. His eyes have waxed old. God has gotten a little tired of him now, because he's seen how Eli failed. I preached a sermon one time called Eli's Epidemic, because Eli failed to deal with his sons, right? Because his sons were defaming the temple, and he didn't do anything about it. But thank God that God raised up a Samuel. And this Samuel is raised in this toxic environment, because I can only imagine that when Phinehas and Hophni saw this little boy come in, and now this little boy is serving their father, he's doing what they should have been doing, that they started to make things a little rough. But that did not bother Samuel, because Samuel chapter 2 verse 26 says, and the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. In other words, when you do what you're supposed to do, God will allow you to find favor with him first. And when you find favor with him, he'll turn around and allow you to find favor with men as well. So he grows up in this toxic environment, right? And we're talking about mental health. We're talking about growing up in a world where you're feeling misunderstood. Now, understand Samuel as he grows up in this house. He's barely 10, 11, 12 years old. He's a young boy. During his time, he's serving his master. Even his sleeping chambers are even within earshot of his master, because if his master needed a cold drink of water, in the middle of the night, he wanted to be able to tend to his master. If his master had trouble breathing or needed some type of medication or whatever, he wanted to be in earshot, right? So that he would be able to tend to the needs of his master. Because you got to understand, before anyone will serve you, you have to be willing to serve somebody else. All right, I'm gonna leave that one alone. So anyway, here's the situation. Growing up in a world feeling misunderstood. 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse number 1 says, it said, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days, because there was no open vision. In other words, the word in that era, Viola, no prophet was speaking. No judge was speaking, because at this time, verse number 1 said that there was no open vision, and the word of the Lord was precious. So they were waiting on God to raise up someone that would give them a word. They wanted a word, right? And so here this man is that was asked, this young boy is who was asked of God, who came out of what was supposed to be a barren situation, who was a miracle child that God is raising up, that he sent to the temple. I want y'all to see the pressure that's put on this child, right? Because we talk about how autistic children, they want to medicate autistic children. They try to understand autistic children. But from my understanding, autistic children think faster than the average person. Well, who's obscure? Who's off? Who's wrong, right? Because if this is the one who's exceptional, if this is the one who thinks on a higher order, then I need to get like you instead of me bringing you back down to here. So here this child is that was raised in Eli's house, barely 12 years old, has this magnanimous responsibility placed upon him to tend to the priest of that day. And all of a sudden, because they need a word, right? Because there's no open vision, there's no prophet, there's no one to give a word to the children of Israel. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, verse number 2, it says, and it came to pass at that time when Eli had laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see, and ere the lamp of God, verse number 3, ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was, and Samuel, here it is, was laid down to sleep. Verse 4, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered and said, here am I. See the picture? He's asleep. The lamp is down. They don't have, I watch Perry Mason at 11 o'clock. They can't watch Perry Mason. No, they don't have TV shows. There's no internet. They can't scroll TikTok, So when the light goes out, everybody goes to bed. Everybody goes to sleep, right? So they're supposed to be asleep. All of a sudden, Samuel, he's supposed to be asleep. His eyes are asleep. Then all of a sudden the Lord calls him and says, Samuel. He hears a voice through the darkness. And what does he do? Because he's in earshot of his master. He's worried now. Is something wrong? He runs into his master and said, Lord, here he says to his master, here am I, for thou callest me. In other words, the only voice I've been responding to is your voice. That's Eli's voice, right? Because that's the normal voice. In the text, I don't know who you are. You might have been an Eli and you heard a voice, or you might have been an Eli where you ministered unto a Samuel, or you were a motivator or a mentor to a Samuel, or maybe you were a Samuel that heard a voice and you went and you tried to get, because the voice you're used to hearing, that's the voice that you respond to, right? Children heard our voices all their lives, and that's the voice they respond to, whether it be a positive response or whether it be a negative response. That's the voice that they respond to, right? When you're not around, they still respond to your voice. Let me leave that alone. Okay, so Samuel says, Samuel said, I promise, I still hear my mama's voice. I mean, to this day, there's certain voices, you know, that's in you. And I'm not talking about the mental psychosis, the types of voices that where you're hearing voices that have to be controlled by medication, because sometimes you do hear certain voices, but as you get older, you start to recognize me. You start not recognizing me. I'm talking about me. When you start recognizing the voice of God, Scripture says that the sheep know the shepherd's voice, and a stranger he will not answer. So you'll get to a certain point in life where you start recognizing certain voices and you'll respond to certain voices, and then you'll know not to respond to certain voices as well. So he goes in the room. He says, Master, did you call me? Look what Eli responds and says, I called not. Lie down again. How many times have people come to you after waking up with a vision, told you that they felt like they had been called, but you told them to go back to sleep? I'm gonna shut down. I'm gonna shut up and let you think about that one for a minute. How many visions have we killed because somebody came to you and shared their vision with you? Or here it is. How many times, oh God, how many times did someone kill your vision? You knew you heard a voice. You knew you felt something that was inspiring you. You knew you felt something on the altar of your heart that was giving you motivation to drive on, or you felt like you had a deeper purpose in life. But when you went and told the wrong person, and that wrong person told you to go back to sleep. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And so many children could have lived. But you know why a lot of times you kill the vision? Because you're afraid you can't control the outcome. Oh my God. I'm going to let that marinate for just a moment. Let me let that marinate. Let me let it marinate. Let me let it marinate. So many times you kill the vision because you are afraid you can't control the outcome. My children chose and I cultivated. Y'all need to tweet that. Y'all need to put that on Facebook, Instagram, somewhere. Let your children choose. You just cultivate. If you're creative enough. I'm a preacher. I'm going to put all C's on it. Yeah, let them choose. You cultivate and be creative in your cultivation and watch how they come forth. And they'll come forth with passion. I'll say it one more time. Let them choose. You cultivate. Do it with creativity and watch them come forth. And they'll come forth every time. And when they come forth, they'll come forth with a smile on their face. They'll come forth with passion. They'll come forth with purpose. But so many times our children are so depressed because we want to control the outcome. Let them babies be. He went in the room, said, Master, did you call me? No, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep. Why didn't you say, why didn't you do an inquiry? Why didn't you say, well, how did the voice sound? Did they speak English or did they speak Spanish? I mean, what did they say? I mean, why didn't you do more investigation? But instead, all he said was what? Go back to sleep. How does that work? I think sometimes many of us, Jennifer Coleman, lawyer, I think sometimes we need to really revoke our parenting cards because we sucked as parents. Like I said, I might have got it wrong on the first one, but I promise you, I started trying to fix that thing as it got older. And me and my son and I had a conversation today. He called me and he said, Daddy, thanks for coming through yesterday, man. Don't you throw your phone. Phones are expensive. He said, thanks for coming through. I said, boy, I had to come through. What you mean? He said, man, I know we don't talk every day. I said, dude, we don't have to talk every day. I said, I did my job. I didn't raise robots. I raised you to make a good decision. And the more you don't call me, that's the fruit of my labor. When I see you making moves and you just closed another house and you're dropping these videos, man, that's the fruit of my labor. I'm good. I can sit back and say, look what we did, because I don't need to hear from you every day. I'm good. The one I need to hear from is in the house with me, and I'm cultivating that every day because if they choose, if I'm creative enough, I can cultivate and I can watch them come forth. But he told them, go back to sleep. He told Samuel, lay back down. Go back to sleep. Verse number 5. And he ran into verse number 6. And the Lord called yet again Samuel. Aren't you glad that when God calls once that he doesn't stop calling? I would shout. I shout right there. Aren't you? I feel like preaching a little bit. Hold on. I need to get me one right there. Aren't you glad that when God calls one time, he doesn't stop calling? Because sometimes he might, he's on the main line and we could call him up and tell him when we want, because his line is never busy. But sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we didn't hear the call. Sometimes we were distracted. But it did wonderful that if he calls, he'll call again.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Because the Bible says he called yet. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. He called yet again. Samuel repeats the process. Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, "Here am I, for thou didst call me." And this time, Samuel, now he's saying, listen, the only voice I've heard in this house is your voice. And I just laid down and I heard a voice, because the Bible said the Lord called yet again. Verse 6, Samuel arose. "Here I am, for thou didst call me." And he says, "Son, I didn't call you. Lie down." At this point, Stacy, I need to do some investigations, because I'm wondering why this little boy keeps coming to me, because I know him. I use this analogy. When Trey was in the fifth grade. Trey was in the fifth grade. He was going to school, Flat Shoals Elementary. And I went out to, and his mother used to go to all of his parent teacher conferences. But this particular time, Jennifer, she would come home and, she would say, hey, the teacher said Trey is talking so much in class, and Trey is disruptive, and Trey is doing this and all this. And Jennifer, Trey don't talk at home. So if he don't talk at home, why would he go to school and talk? So I said, you know what, let me go talk to her next time. So, if something don't make sense to me, I got to question. If this boy keeps coming to me saying somebody's calling him, I got to figure out what's going on. So anyway, I go talk to the teacher. We're having this conversation. She's telling me, well, Trey does this, and he's in class, and he's talking, and, he does his homework, and he does this, and he makes good grades, but he's talking. I said, well, first of all, let me say this. I said, because everything you've told me sounds like qualities that will make him successful in the future. She said, no, hold on. I said, don't do it yet. I said, but not only do they sound like qualities, because you got to advocate for your children, especially when you know your children, right? You know them better than they know them. But I said, they sound like qualities that make him successful. I said, but the second thing is he finishing his work too fast? Are you not giving him enough homework or something? And she said, well, he does finish his work fast. I said, tell you what, give him a little more work. But if he messes up again, here's my phone number. And let him know you're going to call me. They never had another problem. In fact, she recommended him to be a part of some gifted group. She wanted him to go to Japan with a group. He was playing baseball all summer, so he couldn't go. But I advocated for my child. They said I couldn't let the label be on him that he was talkative and he was disruptive, especially when I knew he was disciplined. I knew he knew the consequences of acting up. That didn't make sense to me. So when this boy comes to Eli for the second time and he says, no, you did call me because I heard a voice. At that point, it's time to do an investigation. When you notice strange things, and strange don't always have to be a bad thing. Because see, what you call strange, what you call strange might be gifted to somebody else, but you don't know how to cultivate the gift. Huh? What you call strange might be exceptional to somebody else, because see, some strange stands out. Yeah. Strange looks different. How you doing, Janelle? I tell the Deacon Farley, I say hello. Strange doesn't look like everybody else. And I'm gonna be honest, I have never looked like everybody else. I've never fit in with everybody else. I've always been different. Right? So when he comes in, he says, thou didst call me. But look what Eli says. Lay down again. Go back to bed. How many children were crying out, telling you that I'm exceptional, telling you that there's something different about me. Watch this. Watch this. Telling you that I'm bored. But you sent them to the room. You told them to go to bed. And guess what they did, Lori? They went because they're gonna listen. They're your children. They love you. They think you know what's best for them. They trust your direction. So when you tell them to lay back down, guess what they're gonna do? Go lay back down. But thank God that we serve a persistent God. Because verse number 7 says, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord because he was young. Neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. But despite the fact that Samuel didn't know the Lord, despite the fact that the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed unto him, the Bible says in verse number 8, and I'm about to shout right now, it says, and the Lord called Samuel again the third time. Oh, Lord, I felt that. She said, it says, despite the fact that Samuel's working, but didn't know the Lord. Sometimes you just got to be in the right place and with the right purpose, with the right people, and watch God work it out. Because despite the fact that Samuel didn't know him, God kept calling. And when he called him again the third time, the Bible says he went in unto thee and he said, there, verse number 3 says, and he arose and went into Eli, said, here I am, for thou didst call me. At this point, Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. This is the thing, though. This is the thing. How many times do our children stop talking to us because we shut them down when they came with vision? I felt that in my shana now. Because, and like I told you earlier, because you're either Eli in the text or you're Samuel in the text. Either you were Samuel telling somebody your dream or telling somebody your vision or telling you that God was calling you, telling somebody that God was calling you. Or you were Eli telling somebody to go back to sleep. And if you tell them to go back to sleep long enough, that lets them know that you're not interested in what they have to say or what's going on, or the evolution that's taking place in their lives. Because sometimes your children, sometimes people in your life, they will evolve you. And watch this, evolve. I say evolve you. That doesn't make sense. They'll evolve past you. They'll outgrow you. They'll grow onto a new level. And when that happens, what do? You be the rock. Do you know that when a seed is planted, especially a tree, when the seed is planted, before it grows up, first of all, it grows down? Does that make sense? So many trees that you see that are several feet above ground, they're not only several feet above ground, but they're all several feet beneath the dirt as well. Because before the seed can grow up, they grow down. And when they grow down, the roots, they try to grab hold to something that they can anchor themselves to, because if they can anchor to the right thing, it makes the tree stronger, right? So what the roots do is the roots reach and grab rocks, Elder Lisa Smith, beneath the surface. And when they grab the rock, they wrap the roots around the rock. And the rock ends up becoming the anchor for the tree. Here it is. And oh God, this is fresh. When your children start to grow, when you see they have exceptional gifts, when you see them going into new direction, instead of being a crab in the barrel and pulling them down, be a rock so that their root can grab a hold of you and grow to the area that they need to grow to. We got to create an atmosphere for these children to win, man. We have to create an atmosphere for our children to win. But many times, because we feel like we're not equipped, because here it is once again, because we're not creative enough, we can't cultivate. Elder Lisa Smith, you just congratulations, you got a brand new grandbaby now, and right now you're creating. That's why the African proverb said, talking about it takes a village to raise a child. But what if the village is messed up? Because there's some perverts in the village, there's some pedophile, and if you know that person is that why you still let people go around that person? Huh? We never let our daughters spend the night with anybody ever, because one touch can change the trajectory of their life. You got to protect your children. You got to protect your children. You can ask my daughters, we never, ever, ever, ever let them spend the night with anybody, because I didn't know who was over there. And I can't get no charge, because if my child come home acting funny, I'm going to assume the worst. So I got to protect them at all. So we didn't let them go over people's houses and spend the night. Y'all already know, because some of y'all went over some people's houses. You know, nasty ass cousins did some stuff. I'm sorry, Lord, forgive me. Nasty cousin did some stuff they wasn't supposed to. Oh no, Stacy, no doubt. I started this whole conversation off with about forgiving, because and go back and watch the beginning. I talked about, Alicia, I'm sure all of us can relate to this, especially those of us that have more than one child. We get it wrong on that first child. I don't care what you say, because our parenting styles is a microcosm and a model of how our parents and how our children and how they raised us. Whether we liked it, if we liked it, we implemented it. If we didn't like it, we got rid of it. We tried to do everything the exact opposite. But as we got older, our children kind of taught us how to parent them, right? And then as we learn those things, we can go back and look at our parents and see some mistakes they made growing up, right? And you forgive them, because I know some stuff. I talked earlier about how one of my punishments used to be that if I made a bad grade, I had to stay in the room for 9 weeks, no TV. No radio, all I could do was study and be alone with my thoughts. That was psychological warfare to me. And the sad part about it, Stacey, is that as a 52-year-old man, there are times where I punish myself and I sentence myself to the same room that I have been delivered from, because I'm grown. I don't have to go back in that room anymore. But sometimes as a man, I retreat to that child that's inside of me, and I still punish myself